It began on a perfectly normal Saturday. The sun streamed through the kitchen window, promising a pleasant day, and a man, nearing middle age, called for his son. He wanted the boy up and eating, the usual morning routine, but the response was silence. A little annoyance grew with each passing moment as he waited, expecting footsteps on the stairs. 15 minutes ticked by, a long time to wait for a teenager, and he finally went to investigate. The boy's bedroom door wasn't closed all the way, and inside the young man was still lost in sleep, tangled in his bedding. It wasn't unusual. The boy often stayed up late, absorbed in the glowing screens of his games. The man reached out, intending a gentle shake to rouse him, to get the day started. That's when everything shifted. The world as he knew it fractured. His hand didn't meet resistance, didn't feel the warmth of a shoulder. Instead, it passed clean through as if his son were nothing more than an illusion, a wisp of smoke. He recoiled, thinking it a trick of the light, a momentary lapse in perception. But it happened again, and again. His fingers simply dissolved into the space within the boy's form, unable to grasp, to hold, to feel anything at all. He called out, a sharp shout directed right into his son's ear, clapped his hands inches from his face. But there was no flicker of recognition, no stirring of awareness, only the quiet, even rhythm of his son's breathing. A cold dread began to creep in, tightening around his chest. He wandered the house for hours, a frantic ghost in his own home, caught between disbelief and mounting terror. Had he somehow ceased to exist? Was this what it meant to die, to become unmoored from the world? The boy finally woke around midday, calling for him, his voice laced with confusion and concern. The man stood directly before him, screaming his name, pouring out his fear, but his son couldn't see him, couldn't hear him. He was utterly invisible, a silent observer in his own family's life. Soon after, the authorities arrived. He watched, helpless, as his son broke down in tears in the front yard, clutching at his mother, who offered bitter comfort, whispering accusations of abandonment. Uniformed officers moved through him, their bodies unfeeling, uncaring, as though he were nothing more than a breeze disturbing the air. The days blurred into weeks, marked only by a growing physical discomfort. Hunger gnawed at him, a cruel reminder of his continued existence, yet food slipped through his hands like water. Thirst parched his throat, but even water offered no relief, flowing through him without quenching. He watched as the bank took possession of the house, as his son moved in with his mother, slowly absorbing the narrative she spun, a story of a father who had simply walked away. He couldn't bear it. The weight of his invisibility, the anguish of being so close yet so utterly unreachable, became unbearable. He sank to the pavement in the middle of a busy street and let out a desperate cry, a raw, ragged plea directed at the uncaring sky. He begged for understanding, for release, for anything to end the torment. And then a sensation he hadn't dared to hope for, a touch. A hand landed firmly on his shoulder, and he spun around, heart hammering in his chest. Standing before him were two figures, strangers both. A woman clad in worn leather with a faint, knowing smile playing on her lips, and a man in a cheap suit and dark glasses, his face an unreadable mask. A flicker of hope, fragile as a newborn flame, ignited within him. He stammered, questions tumbling forth, convinced this was yet another cruel illusion. But they didn't fade, didn't waver. The man in the suit spoke calmly, stating something about scanners detecting an anomaly. He reached for a discarded bottle on the ground, attempting to pick it up, but his fingers met only empty space. The woman sighed as a pedestrian strolled directly through her, completely oblivious. The man in the suit then gripped his arm, a firm, solid hold, unlike anything he had felt in weeks. They introduced themselves with names that felt foreign, belonging to another world, offering titles that sounded like echoes of forgotten myths. As he stood there trembling between them, they offered an explanation that, while unbelievable, somehow fit the impossible reality he now inhabited. He hadn't vanished. He hadn't died. He had simply fallen off the map. And now, according to these enigmatic strangers, they had work for him to do. What do you think these mysterious strangers wanted from him? And what kind of work could they possibly have for someone who's fallen off the map? Leave your comments below on your thoughts. Like, subscribe, share, and hit the bell for more content like this.